Welcome again to the second session on statistical description of data. So, in the first session, I was talking about data, quantitative data, qualitative data. I have spoken about descriptive statistics, inferential statistics. We have discussed about population sample. We have discussed about little bit. We have spoken about primary data, secondary data, finite population, infinite population, and all. So let's go to the ICAI material and just try to understand what all is given in the ICAI material when it comes to the first chapter. So in the first chapter, what is given? Introduction to statistics, the modern development in the field of not only management, commerce, economics, social science, mathematics, and so on, but also in our life like public service, defense, banking, insurance, tourism, hospitality, police and military all are dependent on a particular subject called statistics. So what they're talking about, that doesn't matter you are working in management or you are working in commerce or economics or social science or mathematics, doesn't matter which domain you are working on. Ultimately, you need numbers, you need data. So either it's a government of India or either it's a bank, or either it's an insurance company, they need data, and working on data is all about statistics. So statistics play a very important role in enriching a specific domain by collecting data in that field. So talking about statistics is that when we work on statistics in the last class, I told you statistics is all about research. So when we work on statistics, the first step or while working on statistics is the collection of data. Okay, so the first step when we work on statistics is the collection of the data. And this data, what we collect, so either we will follow primary data, or either the data what we work on that we collect by ourselves, which we call as primary data, or we use the data which is already available in the public domain, which we call as secondary data. So the first step while working on statistics is the collection of data. So it doesn't matter you're working in management or commerce or economics or government of India or bank or insurance, you need data. And there the statistics plays very important role because it help you in collection of data. And then once the data is being collected, then statistics will go one step further, because data collection is the one thing. But once we get the data might not be organized. Okay, so we need to organize the data, and for that what we need to do, the once the data is collected, we need to do the data cleaning. So for after the data is being collected, we'll work on organization and classification of data. We work on organization and classification of data. Will work on organization and classification of data, where we follow different methods of classification. It can be quantitative classification or qualitative classification, or it can be temporal classification, or it can be spatial classification. So first thing is that we need to get the data. Once we get the data, what we need to do, we need to do the cleaning of the data. Like nowadays, we are living in the world of computers, and also we have tools like Power Power BI. In Power BI, you have Power Query. So whatever the kind of data you are getting, you can use Power Query for the cleaning part. There's a process called ETL: extract, transform, and load. We use this ETL process for the cleaning of the data. Earlier, we used to use Excel for the data cleaning work by working on VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, pivot tables, and all. Much more better form of data cleaning than Excel you'll get by working on Power Query. So Power Query is the part of Excel also. It is a part of Power BI also. So by using Power Query, you can do the all the cleaning of the data. So when you are working on statistics, once you get the data, the next step is to clean the data. It doesn't matter which domain you are working on. So ultimately, what matters is to clean the data. So whenever you are trying to clean the data, you have many tools nowadays. I just gave you one tool called Power Query is there in Power BI. Okay. So once the data is being collected, then the organization and classification of data we do all the cleaning part of the data. Once the data is clean, then only we can do the analysis of the data. We can do analysis while performing various statistical techniques, and then after the analysis, we can talk about presentation of data either in textual presentation or graphical, or it can be diagrammatic presentation or tabular presentation. But presentation and all, we it's only possible if we have analyzed the data, and analysis is possible if we have cleaned the data, if you have organized the data. So that all these are very important. So our government applies statistics to make economic planning in effective and pragmatic way. The businessman plans and expand their origin of business on daily basis based on the feedback of the data what they get. So nowadays, you know that, right? Post sale service become very important nowadays. You have seen like marketing subject, they focus a lot on post sales activities. Companies also, they work on data mining, data warehousing, where they try to organize or they try to work on the post sales data, so that then only that can bring the sales in the next time. Okay, political parties, even political parties try to impress the general public by presenting the statistics of the performance and accomplishments. There also statistics is being used. Most of the research scholar of today also apply statistics to present their research paper in authoritative manner. Thus, the list of people using statistics goes on, and due to these factors, it is necessary to study the subject statistics in an objective manner. So like this, the first paragraph here, if you study what is given in ICI material, the first paragraph is all about the importance of statistics. So it doesn't matter you are a single person doing some project work, or you are working on some company, or you are working on government of India, or you are doing some business, or you are the political party. Anyone and everyone, they use statistics, and statistics is all about working on data. So going to the history of statistics, now we'll talk about the history of statistics. Going to the history of statistics, so before I talk about the history of the statistics, I just need to complete this. So the steps to work on statistics, the steps when we work on statistics, what are the steps to work on statistics? So the steps of statistics, first is collection of data. Okay, data can be primary data, it can secondary data. Next is organization and classification of data. And what third is the analysis on data. Third is the analysis on data. And the fourth part is the presentation of data. Fourth part is the presentation of data. So we'll discuss more on these parts, analysis part or presentation part, organization, classification part gradually. Okay. Now we'll focus on history of statistics. Let go little bit back in the era, and just let talk about some historical facts about statistics. So when it comes to history of statistics, okay, so you might get some objective type questions based on the history of statistics. So going to the era of history of statistics, okay, going through the history of ancient period and that of medieval period, we do find the mention of statistics in many countries. However, there remain a question mark about the origin of the word statistics. Okay, so no one is actually very sure about from where this word statistics has came from. So one view is that statistics is originated from Latin word called status. So talking about, many people think that statistics has came from the Latin word. What is the Latin word? I forget. Many people think that statistics have came from the Latin word called status. Okay, so maybe some people think that statistics has came from the Latin word called status, status. And according to another school of thought, it originated from the Italian word called statista. Okay, so some people think that it came from Latin word called status. Some people think that it came from the uh, Italian. Okay, it's Italian word. Italian word called statista. It came from the Italian word called statista. Okay, some scholars believe that it came from German word called stastic. Okay, it came from German word. Some people think that it came from German word called called stastic. Okay, okay. So no one actually knows something that it came from Latin word called status, or Italian word called statista, or German word called stastic, or French word called stastiquio. Okay, or the French word called stastiquio, or French word called statistique. So no one knows the history of statistics. Okay, originally this word statistics came from which part of the civilization? Something that it came from the Italian word called statista, or German word called stastic, or French word called stasticu, or Latin word called status. Okay. Uh, so in those days, statistics was analogous to the state, or to be more precise, the data that are collected and maintained for the welfare of the people belonging to the states. So earlier, statistics was the subject of political science. Okay, so it was not like the current era where anyone and everyone is using. So statistics were primarily a data. It was like a vital statistics where the kings used to collect this data to maintain, to know that how many people are living in their country or in their state, so that they can plan their taxation, so that they can plan their military organization. So we are thankful to Kautilya, who had kept the record of the birth and death, as well as some other precise record in his famous book called Arthashastra during Chandragupta time period in the 4th century BC. During the reign of Akbar in the 16th century, we find statistical record on agriculture in Aine Akbari, okay, written by Abu Fazl. Okay, so these are the few relevance of statistics, like in Arthashastra written by Chanakya. There you can find the relevance of statistics. Even you can find the relevance of statistics in the book called Aine Akbari, written by Abu Fazl. Okay, there also you can see the relevance of statistics. So there you can find the relevance of statistics in different era. Okay, so earlier it was a subject of political arithmetic. Okay, so and more or less when we define statistics, it can be either defined in singular sense or in a plural sense. Statistics, when thus used as a plural noun, may be defined as the data, qualitative or quantitative, that are collected usually with the view of statistical analysis. However, statistics, when used as singular noun, may be defined as a scientific method that is employed for collecting, analyzing, presenting, leading finally to draw some statistical inference about some important characteristic, which means the science of counting, or the science or average. So discussing what all we have worked on so far. So first we have started the, if I go with the ICI material, first we have discussed the present relevance of statistics, that either you talk about management, you talk about business, you talk about defense, you talk about insurance, you talk about marketing. Everywhere statistics is used. When you use the word called search engine optimization, digital marketing, data mining, data warehousing, data science, these all is the application of statistics, where nowadays anyone and everyone, if either a small person who is doing some project work, he using statistics, then to the government who have successfully completed certain years of their political assignment. They also show statistical data to showcase their work like this. So anyone and everyone nowadays, uh, to be become more relevant, now they anyone and everyone use statistics. Okay, so when we talk about statistics, statistics start with collection of data, then organization and classification of data, and then analysis on data, and then finally presentation of the data. Discussing about the history of statistics, no one actually very sure about this term statistics has came from which part of the civilization. Something that it came from Latin word called status, or Italian word called statista, or a German word called stastic, or French word called statistique. Okay, all these word basically means is science of counting. Okay, all this word is basically used by the kings to get to know how many people are living in the state, so that they can talk about their military organization, so that they can talk about their taxation. Okay, you can see the relevance of statistics in the book Shastra written by Kautilya, or Ainagori written by Abu Fazal. Okay, so parallelly this subject is actually developed in all part of the world. So initially it was looked upon as a science of counting or the science of averages. Now when we talk about statistics, we use statistics in economics, we use in business management, commerce, industry, everywhere we use statistics. Okay, talking about economics, we have time series analysis, index number, demand analysis, where we use statistics. Sorry, there we use statistics. Nowadays we can see a subject called econometrics, which is a branch of economics that interact with statistics in very positive way. Okay, conducting socio-economic survey and analysis, the data derived from it was made with the help with different statistical techniques. Okay, we have a technique like regression analysis, where we try to find the relation between two variable, where one variable can be dependent on another variable. So the technique like regression analysis of statistics is used for future forecasting of demand of goods, sales, services, quantities which are important for the economic planning. So this is how you can give few relevance of using statistics in economics. Then talking about business management, gone are the days when managers used to make decision based on hunches, intuitions, trial and error. Nowadays, because of never-ending complexity in the business and industry environment, most of the decision-making processes rely upon several quantitative techniques, which could be described as a combination of statistical methods and operation research techniques. So far as statistics is concerned, inferences about universe from from the knowledge of the part of it known as sample play very important role in the development of certain criteria. Statistical decision theory is another component of statistics that focuses on the analysis of complicated business strategies with the list of alternatives, their merit as well demerit. So it's just given you the domain of statistics which is being used nowadays in different domain, different path or different subjects. Either in economics, we use regression, econometrics; in business, in management, we use operation research, we use statistics to study the subjects or the parts like the statistical decision theory. Okay, all that is ultimately is helping us for the businesses to make decision. Nowadays they have to play with the numbers. We see statistics in commerce and industry in the age of cutthroat competition. Now, like the modern managers, like the industrialists and the businesses men are expanding the horizons of industries and businesses with the help of statistical procedures. So data on previous sales, raw material, wages, salaries, product of identical nature of other factories are collected, analyzed, and experts are consulted in order to maximize profit. Okay, so measures of central tendency, dispersion, correlation, regression, time series, index number, sampling, statistical quality control are the methods which are employed in commerce and industries. So all these terms, what you are listening, measure of central tendency, measure of dispersion, correlation, regression, time series, all this we're going to study in the subject statistics. These are the domain of statistics which is being used in businesses, it's being used in economics, it is being used in industry to come up with lot of research so that demand forecasting, the inventory control management, okay, all that can be possible. Okay, talking about the limitation statistics, before applying statistical method, we must be aware about following limitation. Let's talk about the limitation statistics. Statistics deals with aggregate. So first thing is that you cannot work on single number. So whenever we work on statistics, we need a lot of data. More data we get, better can be our research. Okay, there's no certainty or there's no 100% best result and also whenever we work on statistics, ultimately we are doing a research to prove something. So to prove something we need data. Okay, so statistics works on aggregate, it cannot work on single value or the single data. And statistics, already I told you, it is concerned with quantitative data. So whenever we are doing research and we are getting data like qualitative data, it need to be converted to quantitative data by providing a numerical description to the corresponding qualitative data. Then like projections of sales, production, price, quantity, all that are possible under specific set of conditions. If any of these conditions are violated, projections are likely to be inaccurate. Then the theory of statistical inference is built upon random sampling. Okay, so if the rule of sampling, random sampling is not strictly adhered, then the conclusion drawn based on these unrepresentative sample would be erroneous. So basically, I told you in the previous class is that when we work on statistics, is statistics we can work on descriptive statistics or we can work on inferential statistics. So when we work on inferential statistics, we work on sample, and when we work on sample there are methods of sampling we can use. Okay, these methods of sampling whatever we are using, we cannot be 100% sure or we cannot be 100% be what you say certain about that the kind of output what you get uh, when you work on descriptive statistics, the same kind of accuracy in the output you get when you work on inferential statistics. So there's always a possibility of sampling errors can be there whenever you work on sample. Okay, so that is always there when we work on inferential statistics. So talking about limitation statistics, we cannot work on single values. We need aggregate of the values. We cannot work on qualitative data. Okay, we cannot work on qualitative data. Then the next thing is that if you're working on sample and all, then there's always a possibility of sampling error. Okay, so I hope you have understood what all we have discussed in this class, where in this class we started with the introduction of statistics, then we discussed about the history of statistics, definition, and the application of statistics in economics, in business, commerce. Okay, then we discussed the limitation of statistics. Next class, we'll start about collection of data. I hope you have understood. So this is the time to wind up the session. Thank you, everyone. More we'll see in next class.